The Senate has resumed. Senator Maladu.
Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me, and I do recognize that we have just finished what was a very tasty meal today. Much enjoyed it. But sir, as I stand here, I feel that I think I should tell you how I feel. I feel like if I was a person earlier today, I was crossing the road and I was looking at the traffic this way, and I was looking at it, and a car hit me coming from the other side. I was not looking in that direction at all. It was the most unusual feeling I had, because in looking at the resolution in front of us, I prepared myself to speak on the compulsory acquisition by the state of some parcels of land at Trent. That's the matter in front of us that we will be having a vote on later. But in fact, today, I don't think that either in the presentation by Leader of Government Business or in the responses that I've heard so far, actually the focus has been on a different parcel of land. So I really would like to speak on the compulsory acquisition land, but before I get there, I'll finish with that. I just want to address some of the things that I heard earlier in my own way. I heard about the windows to the sea, I heard about overdevelopment, and I heard about the preservation of heritage. Everything that I heard, I want to associate myself with those comments on those subjects. I agree. As a country, we need to do better with the windows to the sea. But I want to focus us on the existing ones that we have and turn our heads a little bit inland to it. Because some of the places where we have access to the beach and windows to the sea, we have nowhere to park and get to them. And I have been calling, and I will call today again for it, to say that we probably need to go across the road from those and provide areas where the public can park and access through those access points to the sea. Secondly, in terms of the overdevelopment, which has been talked about, again, I want to agree, because what worries me from a tourism point of view is Barbados actually does not need any more tourists at this point in time between about December 20th and sometime towards the middle of March. We don't need any more then. We are at capacity. In fact, some people will say that we are over capacity for the amount of the beaches that we have, so we're going to have to develop out some other areas and so on. What we really need to turn our focus on, and I want to do my part. I don't want to be part of the problem, I want to be part of the solution, is to use the plant that we have already and let us have it busy 6 months of the year, 8 months of the year, 10 months of the year, maybe even 12 months of the year. Imagine if we could have a January every month of the year in terms of tourism arrivals and tourism stay. That could double our tourism without building one more hotel room. And I believe, sir, that there are ways to do that. And at some point in time, I will share those thoughts, as I have done with the ministers and various people involved. And in terms of heritage, again, as I say, I want to agree with everything that has been said on it. But I don't think, in my opinion, that we get to choose what heritage that is. Heritage is all of our heritage. It is all of it. And we shouldn't be picking pieces of it and hiding it away so I don't know where he is, or they are. We don't get to do that, because if we get to do that, remember that in generations further down, maybe they won't think of the ones that were important to us today to celebrate or to remember. Maybe they will take those ones down too. And that's not who I am. I think that our heritage is all of our heritage. Some of it is good, some of it we celebrate, some of it we remember as sad times, but all of it we should keep. So let me turn my attention to what I had thought I was going to be speaking about before I got run over by that car from the other direction. And sir, I want to speak to compulsory acquisition in this case. It is my opinion that the eminent domain powers that any government has needs to be exercised carefully, very carefully. They need to do it very transparently. They need to do it in a way that everyone can be proud of. In this case, I believe that there has been significant transparency in this at the first step, which is, why do we need this land in Trent? We know exactly what this land will be used for. It will be used to relocate the whole town civic centre. That is very transparent. It is clear that it is a public purpose. I understand that. The second thing that one would normally ask in a compulsory acquisition is, why this land? Why not another piece of land? Why are you acquiring this one? Now, sometimes that is not relevant. For example, government often will use its compulsory acquisition powers, eminent domain powers, for example, to widen a road. Well, a piece of land in St. Philip is not going to help you if you're trying to widen a road and say, Michael, there's only certain parcels of land, sir, that it's clear which ones you have to acquire. But there are other times when one might ask the question, well, why are you buying Miss Smith land and not Miss Jones land? What's the reason? I believe that it is incumbent upon government, all governments, to be absolutely clear when compulsory acquiring private land for public purposes, that the second step, having established the public purpose, is also to establish why that land. Again, being in the real estate business and knowing Whole Town and knowing some of the ownership around it, I may actually agree in this particular case that that was probably the closest proximity land that makes sense. It makes sense for the lay of the land, how it could be done, where the school is, all of those things. But we need to be clear in every compulsory acquisition that we do that the public purpose is known, and secondly, that why you're choosing that parcel of land, so that there can never be any question as why have you chosen Ms. Cummins' land over Reverend Rogers' land. What was your reason for that?
Mine is smaller.
That was Cummins in general, Mr. President. You know, there are many people called Cummins, sir. Many people. Many. Thirdly, sir, in establishing what is in the public purpose, we have to remember that we're spending public money. And when we spend public money, and you're going to establish what the public purpose is, one needs to be transparent and say clearly what it is going to cost. I believe that it is incumbent upon governments to tell us, when you compulsory acquire land, what you're going to pay for it. And it must be clear that you know what you're going to pay for it, because you have to allocate that money at the time. Fourthly, I think that it needs to be clear as a good, responsible government, and this is all governments past and future and present, that when you compulsory acquire someone's land, you pay them for it. You do not use it until you have paid for it. It is unreasonable that we have significant tracts of land which have been compulsory acquired in years gone by under past governments, present governments perhaps, and no compensation has been paid, and the land is being treated with as if it is their own, as if it belongs to the state. I believe that that is fundamentally a problem. So, sir, the resolution before us is a resolution for the compulsory acquisition of land at Trent for the relocation of the Civic Centre. I believe that it makes good sense to relocate the Civic Centre. I believe that there is a better purpose for that land. I believe that the heritage, the over-tourism, all of those things need to be taken into account, but that's not what's before us today. That is a different matter that needs to be discussed at another time, and I agree with the points being made on that. What is before us is the compulsory acquisition of land, and the only thing that I can find deficient here is that I am hoping that in the future we would know exactly why you've chosen that parcel of land over any other parcel of land, what you will pay for it, and that you will not deal with it until it has been paid for. Those are my comments with regards to this resolution, which I do support. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Senator Maladu. Senator Reverend Canon Dr. Rogers.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for acknowledging me as I speak briefly to this resolution. When the resolution was tabled and I gave a look at it, one thing came to mind was the words from now Senator John King, who was then John King, the Calypsonian, who said, "These fields and hills without a footpath, preventing Bajans from getting a sea bath," when he was talking about access to the beaches in Barbados. And as Senator Malalou rightly said, the debate has taken a different direction, because I do not think anyone has, well, from what I've heard, has a problem with the compulsory acquisition of the lands in question. But I believe after the passionate speech from Senator Haynes today, it calls us all to do some introspection on the general outcome of this resolution, because one of the things that was actually voiced is that plans are well in advance. I heard mention of a 7-story hotel on one side and I think 5-story on the other side. I got that right? I thought I heard. Of the canal. Of the canal. Yeah. I heard that in the speech today.
Yes.
Yes.
Just to be of assistance, Senator Maynard was expressing a view and asking whether it was desirable to have that scenario.
I thought I heard Senator Haynes say that.
Or was it you, Senator Haynes?
I believe our speech, if we check
No,
it,
perhaps, but yeah.
suggests that there are suggestions of having hotels, and I said, which I can't speak to, because I'm sure that an environmental impact...
But indeed it was raised, though.
Yes, it was raised. There must be an environmental impact assessment, something that we heard so much about prior to 2018, that will be done on this particular piece of property if that is the desired outcome. But I also share the view of Senator Malalou, which I raised in this chamber some time before, about the danger of over-tourism and what it can do to our natural resources and what we have here. But I would like to just cast the chamber's mind to a different perspective. When I heard how passionately Senator Haynes spoke about the actual site that is being vacated, I felt in her voice that there should be for Barbadians, or she was suggesting that there's for us a spiritual connection to that place, that particular portion of land. And it reminded me of my visit to Panama during the past year, last year. I went on one of those little tours, and I toured somewhere called the Old City, the first city, not the old town, the first city. And this was actually the first settlement in Panama. And when you walked into that place, it felt like you were transported back in time. They have not even paved roads or anything. It's the same dirt roads, same everything. The little buildings are there, the same structures and so on. And they cherish that as a heritage site. They're able to tell their story, the story of the settlement of Panama, based on that, the ruins of that little city. Of course, much has taken place on the site that we're speaking about today, but I believe that there is some merit to the argument that we need to consider very seriously what is being done there. And I hope that that will come before this chamber at some point in time when the plans are made. I have no problem with the relocation of the municipal center, as we understood that there is flooding in that area, and we understand that that needs to be done. But in terms of what happens on that site, I believe there should be a broader discussion, a national discussion on that. And so, if the intention is to erect large buildings on that area, we can't. Let us remember that we're 166 square miles, and there are lots of other players in this industry. And if we lose what is unique to us, we'll just be building monuments. I visited another place last year, Grand Bahama, in the Bahamas. What used to be known as Magic City when it was going, everything was flowing. It's now an empty shell. Empty hotels. It's eerie just to look at them. Right there on the beachfront, nobody. Lord Kitchener in 1978 sang a calypso that I don't believe many people in the Caribbean have ever paid attention to, but it's one of the most beautiful pieces of work that's been done in the genre. It's called The Carnival is Over. The Carnival is Over. Beautiful music, but it is the imagery that is painted. That after everyone is finished jumping up and everything, the stands are empty. They're a wreck, broken bottles, and there's nothingness. And I believe on the macro level, we can listen to that song and consider very carefully what our development trajectory will be where tourism is concerned. And so, as I said, sir, when that debate comes, I'm ready to have that debate. And I hope that there will be wide public consultation on that, what happens on that particular site before anything is done, similar to what happened in Bay Street when there was much consultation amongst other things. I heard that was then, not now. But let me just close, sir, by commending Senator Haynes for her speech. What I refer to as a drop mic speech. I believe that this particular chamber, the Senate, was not constructed to be an echo chamber. It was here where professionals sit and reflect on the legislation that is brought to us, and bringing our various perspectives, we speak to it. And I believe that that is what Senator Haynes did today, in a very passionate way, a way that showed her concern for our country and its heritage. And so I want to make an appeal, if I may, to those who have the power or any influence. Please do not penalize her for her honesty. Please do not penalize her for her conscience. This chamber is meant to do just what she did today. And so I commend you once again, Senator Haynes, and I encourage us all, as we reflect upon this piece of legislation, to remember, as Senator Malulu says, it's just about the acquisition of land on the other side of the road. To move the municipal center, which has issues with flooding on the other side, but also to bear in our minds and prepare ourselves for when consideration has to be given to the property that is being vacated, and what we would like to see done there, and what we think ought to be done there. With those few words, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Ken and Dr. Rogers. Senator Cummings.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to thank all of the honourable members who have spoken. I want to express appreciation on behalf of the government for all of the contributions, all well made. In particular, the members that have spoken about the things that unite us as Barbadians: access to the sea, windows to the sea, over-tourism, over-development, inclusiveness, and ensuring that there's a piece of the rock for Barbadians, including Barbadians and the persons who were born here in Barbados and those who have chosen to call Barbados home. And I beg to move at this time, therefore, Mr. President, that this resolution do now pass.
The question is that this resolution do not pass. Will those honourable senators in favour please say aye? Aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This resolution is therefore now passed.
Mr. President, that brings us to the end of government business for the day. I think this is the earliest time we've ever finished government business in a long time. And I beg to move that we do adjourn the Senate sine die.
The question is that this Honourable the Senate be now adjourned sine die. Will those Honourable Senators in favour please say aye? Aye. Those against please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. Therefore, adjourn the Senate sine die.